Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Best of the West, a place for all things LCS and LEC. I'm your host, Shadows, and I'm here to talk about some stuff, mainly Worlds. I was actually considering doing this after quarterfinals, but thank God I wait because we have so much more to talk about. But we'll get to that stuff later, because first I want to talk about Worlds and kind of reflecting on Worlds and some of the other things. So first of all, we have to start with FlyQuest because they are the best of the West. That's the name of the show. Be weird not to start with them. I'm saying that because I genuinely think their performance was the best, not just because they were the one team that made quarterfinals, but I genuinely think their performance against Gen G was like kind of insane. I genuinely question whether G2 or Team Liquid would have been able to do that. I think usually when we look at teams from the West and the spot they can take, we usually think it's like the LPL. I feel like it's easier to contend with the LPL than the LCK. Obviously, the one Eastern team that didn't make it was the LCK, but that's because they were beat by Weibo, so there's that whole conversation there, LPL over LCK. Is LPL a better region if they're not facing T1? And I am going to get to that because, good lord. I genuinely think about it, especially with what we saw from Team Liquid. They were contesting really well with LPL teams. But I think the fact that they pushed Gen G to Game 5 and the fact that it was Gen G that had to show up to make it Silver Scrapes is impressive. Like, they went up 2-1. I think it was really an impressive feat from all of them. I think Masu and Busio looked really good. I mean, I saw some of the stuff from Hoopu Esports, what they were saying about our players, and obviously Masu's performance was insane. It's hard to believe that he was a rookie when you look at like his Kaisa performance in I think game 3 or 4, or maybe it was even no, I don't think he played Kaisa in game 5. But yeah, no, Masu had an insane performance. He showed up. Busio was playing really well too. I feel like he went under the radar because we were talking about all the other players. But I think the sort of performance that these rookies had also isn't just about them. Obviously, Masu and Busio's in his sophomore year. But I think the praise of these rookies also has to transfer over to Inspired. And Inspired did play well. He pulled out his Fiddlesticks in Game 5, which was able to get FPX eliminated in that group of death 1 year at Worlds. So, I mean, yeah, they did a lot of cooking in that Game 5 Fiddlesticks and set. And they also did not expect the Smolder. So I think Game 5 mostly came down to draft. I think they may have cooked a little too hard, but definitely the Smolder was the bigger reason why they lost, not the set. But yeah, I mean, I think Game 5 was even winnable. It's just crazy that NA was this close to getting back to semifinals. It would have been the first time in 6 years. So I think FlyQuest really deserves praise. It really shows that, them winning Summer Split was not a fluke, and we knew that because of the elimination match. They just had a great performance. And speaking of that elimination match, I almost said patch. Perfect segue to Team Liquid, because Team Liquid also had a pretty good performance, I feel like. I mean, it was kind of lackluster. There was a lot of stuff that went wrong. I've already reviewed the Weibo and LNG games. We all saw that. We saw what happened when they went 0-2 and then they had to climb through. The team just looked so different when they were going up. Like, they had bad draws, and then their luck went up because they had to play, Pain and Gam, and then they had to play FlyQuest. Yeah, it kind of looks like the team kind of just, I don't know if I would say downgraded. I wouldn't say fell apart because they didn't look that bad, but it was really just a lackluster Worlds for them. It was a really unfortunate showing from them, but I think they still showed some promise. I mean, APA has obviously improved a lot, even though there were some serious misplays from him. I think at the end of the day, it was APA and Umpty who had the worst performances, but I don't think that means they need to be replaced. It's important to keep in mind Umpty was a bottom of the table / bottom half LCK jungler. Not to shit on him, but in the LCK he was not great. He's now in the LCS where he can thrive and be one of the better junglers. This was his first international competition, so I think there's that too. But yeah, I mean, I think when one player is playing bad or is struggling, it can affect the whole team. So I hope they can rally and fix those issues and realize the issues they were dealing with. But yeah, I have hope for them, and I hope they will keep all their roster together. And speaking of which, we have to go to our last team, which is not keeping all their roster, and I will get to that at the end of reviewing it, which is G2 Esports. Man, G2. So close yet so far. They were one game away from qualifying. They had to face BLG, which were world finalists. They were one game away from winning Worlds. Fortunately, they just got outclutched by T1. But yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, we all saw that game 3. Elk was kind of just playing out of his mind. I remember watching Dom's review of game 1 and game 3, and in game 3 he was like, oh my god, he's Chinese, he's so Chinese. Yeah, so that Ezreal was speaking a lot of Mandarin and was playing very well. So unfortunate luck of the draw, which I know a lot of LEC fans watching this are going to think, yeah, that's why we couldn't do it, because of the luck of the draw, and we wouldn't be able to draw Weibo again. And yes, I agree. If they had played pretty much any of the other teams, it is possible they could have gotten through. Except for maybe FlyQuest, because I do think that Hansama did not look as great, but in terms of performance, I think it's Hans and Yike. Although I guess Hans wasn't that bad. I mean, I probably should have rewatched that series so I could give better thoughts, because I don't know what to say about Hans and Mickey, but Mickey and Yike are the ones being replaced. But I think the Yike one does make sense, because the thing is, when it comes to junglers, I think junglers look like their best when they're playing their own game. And we saw G2 experiment with that with the Zac and Sejuani mid, Caps playing tanks mid, and letting Yike carry on his Bel'Veth or his Kha'Zix and stuff like that. And they did that at MSI a little bit, I think, too. But it's that is Yike's game. He is a hard carry jungler. I don't want to get too much into off-season because I want to do a later episode on that. But yeah, they're picking up a new guy called Skewbond, who is apparently the most sought-after player. Maybe he's a good facilitator at facilitating carries and whatnot. And good with topside, because in terms of performance, I actually want to talk the most about Broken Blade. Because yes, maybe Mickey had a bad world, maybe Mickey's not in great shape, maybe Hans Didn't have any problems. Maybe his performance would have been better with a different support. I want to leave the bot lane alone because I want to look at the top side, because I want to talk about Broken Blade, because I think Broken Blade looked so much better this Worlds. Last Worlds, he kind of looked like a liability for G2. He was not playing well. He looked like the weak link of the team. And this year, it was very different. Broken Blade looked a lot better. He was performing much better. I feel like he was holding his own much more. And I think the sheer difference between last Worlds and this Worlds is something Broken Blade should be really proud of. And he is a serious asset and a super important player for this team to perform well. So, yeah, it's sad that they didn't make it, but the players who are staying made serious improvement, and by that I mean Broken Blade, because I'm not going to talk about Hans, because like I said, I should have reviewed that. But that's it for Worlds. So we're going to move on to Worlds, and we're going to go over from Worlds to the LTA. Because we need to talk about this. This is why I'm glad that I waited. Because, oh my god, do I hate this branding so much. They put "the" in the acronym. Who does that? I just hate it so much. My prediction was, or what I wanted to see, was we would just go back to NALCS. And then we would have South America LCS. But I guess they don't want to do League of Legends Championship Series. Maybe they wanted to make an Americas thing. They could do like NACS and SACS or ACS North, ACS. I hate LTA, and I really don't like the branding. They're not going to change it. I highly doubt it unless we make a huge uproar. Comment down below if I should make a change.org petition to, get them to rebrand. But yeah, that aside, I don't like the branding. And I'm not a huge fan of the format. But I understand why it's happening. It's because we both have 3 splits. So, rebranding aside, let's talk about the 3 splits that LEC and LCS have. I think I'll start with LEC because there's less changes there. They already had 3 splits and there's less changes there. The main change is they dropped season finals. And LEC summer looks different, but let's go through in chronological order. LEC winter is best of ones and it's full fearless. So they don't have like the extended playoff thing. They're doing single round robins. LEC winter is full fearless with a best of one single round robin. And then LEC spring is a full BO3 split single round robin. Which I think is fine. I think it makes more sense because they both have the same playoff format, and I guess it's just easier to condense it, and they have the time to do a full BO3 split. So I think that's good because BO3 is now spring and summer, rather than, the weird segmentation of half BO1, half BO3 that they did 2 years ago. They tried and that didn't work, so it was just an extended play. Like, it's just better than going from BO1 to BO3 to BO5. You can have a best of 1 split with playoffs. You can have a best of 3 split with playoffs, and those 2 finalists going to MSI. And then you have LEC Summer. I'm so glad they got rid of season finals because I hated season finals so much. I was like, can we just do like a full BO3 split with like just a regular playoffs? And that's what they're doing. Essentially. I mean, it's a little bit different because they have 2 5-team groups. They don't eliminate the 9th and 10th. But yeah, they have single round robin groups. So each team plays 4 times. So that's 1 + 2 + 3 + 4. So each group has 10 games. Sorry, I should have done the math beforehand. And then after that, the third and fourth teams, those 4 teams play opposing seeds. So 3A has to go up against 4B, and then 3B has to play against 4A. 4A has to play against 3B. 3A plays against 4. Well, no, I already said that. But yeah, 3B plays against 4A. No, I said that right the first time. It's a little confusing, but, it's a much better format. It's basically these teams get to fight for those last 2 spots, and there is a chance that, the 4th team from Group A is better than the 3rd team from Group B, or Group 2. I did it in letters because that's just easier for me to understand, rather than being 3rd seed from Group 1 and 4th seed from Group 2. But yeah, I like this format, and I think it's so much better that they're doing more BO3s. And we have something a little bit different in the LCS, because our winter and our spring are pretty different. Because our split 1 is full fearless double elim BO3 format. So it's basically what LEC winter has been. Instead of best of 1s, it's best of 3s. And it's a double elim format for both the North and South. And then the top 4 of both South play single elim, have a single elim competition for that 1 seed at that international competition, that full fearless international competition, which I think is fine, I guess. I mean, I feel like it might be better if it was just 3 maybe, but since it's single elim, but then again, if you only have 6, it's a bit weird to do single elim, so it's fine. In general, I'm not really a fan of this format in general, just because of how it affects the other regions. Obviously, this is about LEC and LCS are now LTA North and kind of South. But I really wonder how this is going to affect the LCK and LPL. If, they just pause for a week and just choose a team out of nowhere. I don't know how they're going to do it, because I have a feeling they're not going to just break up their split. Especially with the LPL. I mean, they just have so many teams that they're probably just going to play through during, this 1-week tournament. But yeah, that's something that I'm kind of interested to see. I haven't seen anything about their formats changing. But then again, that doesn't matter for this show. So we're going to have that split 1, and then we have split 2, which is single round robin best of 1s. And then we have playoffs. And both first seeds just get a spot at MSI, which kind of sucks. I wish there was competition between North and South, because I genuinely think that having, letting the 2 seeds from both and first seed South have a little bit of a mini playoffs, mini tournament to decide who goes would be a lot better. But, I mean, that's kind of my whole issue with the merger, but, I guess we'll just have to see how it goes. Maybe they will do a lot better. Maybe, LTA South, the new formerly CB Law, will do better as a region. And then there's split 3, which I don't want to talk about because it's such a weird format. It's like, so the funny thing is, it's kind of like a reverse, it's kind of reverse Swiss, because instead of the O2 teams playing each other in week 3, each O2 team has to play a 2-0 team. So it's kind of like inverted / some weird bastardization of a Swiss format. But yeah, that's the first 3 weeks are able to understand, based on the split 2 standings, teams are matched up. And then the 0-1 teams are forced to choose the 1-0 teams. And then the 1-1, and then the 0-2 teams are forced to choose the play against the 2-0 teams. They get to choose which one they face. And then the 1-1 teams pick the other 1-1 team they want to face, because what it's based on is the loser picking. But weeks 4 and 6 are just such a fucking headache to try and understand. So I'm not going to even try and get into that. But the bigger thing I want to talk about is the playoffs. Because the thing is, South and North immediately get seeds to Worlds, and it's like the number 2 seeds and kind of the number 3 seeds fighting for that last spot, which I hate. I cannot emphasize how much I hate that, because even if, like I said earlier, if CBLOL does level up, I don't think they should get an automatic spot. I think that's such BS. I think they should have to compete. They shouldn't get an automatic spot. It's so dumb. Because, like, what if the 2 finalists are both LCS teams, LTA North teams? Those should be our top 2 seeds. And what if it's, LTA North 3rd seed that's also in the lower bracket? Like, those should be the teams that get it. They should not get an automatic spot. I hate that so much. And I think if they perform badly, hopefully Mark Z and his Brazilian boss will consider changing that. But yeah, that just really pisses me off. But excuse me, I need a lot of fluids when I drink. But yeah, format aside, let's talk about the teams that are going to be in it. We have 6 LCS teams. We have 5 LCS spots and a provisional guest spot carrying over. So we have everyone except for NRG and Immortals and 100 Thieves in that provisional guest spot. And I want to talk about 100 Thieves for a little bit, because it's a weird choice that they made, because it's a provisional guest spot. They sold their spot, and it looks like they're trying to exit the league, and they very well might, but I think it's interesting to consider, like, which esports org would buy that spot instead. I don't follow many other esports, so I don't know who it would be. Like, maybe there's some Call of Duty, or maybe there's some sort of, I don't know, some other org that's involved in, like, other shooters, like maybe a Valorant org. I just don't know who would buy that spot. And I also think it really sucks that they're trying to leave the league, especially when you have Sniper, because that's the thing, is that whoever buys a spot is probably going to carry over the roster, and whether it's 100 Thieves or a different org in 2026, the face of your org, at least in the LCS, is going to be Sniper. And I don't know why 100 Thieves wants to give that up. Like, they seriously do have some brand power. They could have some staying power if you have Sniper as the face of your org. And it just really sucks. There is a chance that they could reconsider and be like, hey, we actually want to stay in the LCS. We'll buy our spot back. I'm not sure if they would have the money to do that. But yeah. I mean, it is provisional guest, so it may mean a temporary guest spot, but it also may be a consideration of moving out or moving on. And I hope they stay, because I actually really like 100 Thieves as an org. And it just really sucks to see this, especially for David Shajnuk, or however you pronounce it. This guy has invested so much into the LCS space, for 100 Thieves, and just to see them be like, yeah, we're trying to leave, and if you want long-term investment in the LCS, maybe you should look at another team like FlyQuest or Team Liquid or Cloud9. Like, what a slap in the face. It just really sucks for him. He deserves better. And then there are the other two teams. There's Lion Gaming, which is like the Rainbow Seven merging with Six Karma or something. The rumored roster is kind of confusing because they have Licorice, Audi, Saint, Henna, and Lions. And Saint and Henna are Korean imports. And they have Licorice, Audi, and Lions. And I'm not sure if this violates the rules of, blocking majority non-resident teams. For example, I think they were saying like, you can have north and south count as residents in a way, but if it's like majority non-resident, that would be blocked. But I don't know how that works for LLA teams. So, like, I know for a CBLOL team to have, like, 3 formerly LCS players and only 2 British players, that'd be blocked. And vice versa for an LTA North. Like, you can't just have, like, 3 Brazilians. So, I don't know how that works for, LLA teams. If you can have, like, just 2 LLA or LATAM players and 1 LCS player or 1 CBLOL player, because there could, the LLA spot in LTA South might be able to do the same. So that's a little confusing, but hopefully that's not a problem. And then there is the guest team, which is DSG, and I'm happy for them. I mean, it's great. But I'm also confused because it's like, what was the point of America's Challengers exactly? Like, what are we doing here? We had an America's Challengers sort of provisional, not provisional, but I don't know what we used to call it when we would relegate teams, but it was sort of like a relegation sort of tournament. And I'm not really sure what the point of that was, because you have the 2 finalists in Fearx Starforge, and I think it was Pain Gaming Academy. So I don't know if the guest teams are sort of like absorbing these rosters, like if Pain Gaming Academy is the roster for the LTA South guest team, and then FXS is going to be part of Disguise roster. Right now, the only roster we know is that Abadage may be joining, which is great to have him back in the LTA North. It's good to have him back, but that could suck for ABO. But I hope they are forced to absorb some of FXS's roster, because these players fought really hard to, get to where they got. They had, like I said, ABO. They had XU. They had Winsome. They had Philip in top lane. Like, these were all players that have had LCS experience, who have played at least somewhat in the LCS. Obviously, Winsome and Philip only partially. So, yeah, all these players and their ADC instinct. I think he's the... I don't think... Well... Oh, yeah, no, he did also have LCS experience because I think he was on TSM Challengers and he came in for a little bit. So yeah, my bad. They all have some LCS experience and they all worked really hard to try and get back. And there's a good chance that none of them could get back, which really pissed me off. But hopefully a good amount of those players will be playing for Disguise next year. So yeah, that's about it for now. And I will see you guys hopefully next week, if not sooner, for to discuss the off season. I will definitely see you guys before the 28th because that is when a lot of that stuff happens. But yeah, see you guys next time.